Hey, what is up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here, and wow! I decided to also do this review on the same day that I reviewed The Number of the Beast, which is October 19th, instead of doing the review of this album as a much later date, because I want to get this review done and over with. And boy oh boy, as a follow-up to Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, after the complete masterpiece of that album, this is really the turning point for a massive amount of difficulty to follow the previous album with this one. And this is going to be for No Prayer for the Dying. Now, this album was released in 1990, a new decade at the time for Maiden themselves. After the release of Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, Adrian Smith had left the band, so this is the debut Maiden record to have Yannick Gers to replace Adrian's role as the second guitar player and the first time to work with the guys. This is also the second to last album to be made with Martin Birch's duties as the producer, and the second to last too with Bruce Dickinson. Man, this album, I really did try to revisit this album with an open mind, and after buying the rest of their albums to complete this discography, I had revisited this album, played it a few times, and I cannot believe that this album did not age very, very well in my honest opinion. And I know that there are some people that do defend this album for the better than me. The production is definitely a very noticeable thing. It is very weak and it's generic with mediocre mixing as well. It reminds me somehow of Never Say Die by Black Sabbath, but at the same time, when I listen to this album, for Bruce Dickinson's vocals, this has some of the cringiest vocals that were very weak and boring on a lot of the tracks. To really compare this album, production-wise, songwriting-wise, and the sheer execution after the tremendous classic of Seventh Son, this album was just a very big all-time low. Tail Gunner, the first track, it's like a song that was made in different splits and different sections, and they are just combined into one. And it's got decent music and arrangements, but at the same time, it's pretty weak when you compare it to the other opening tracks like Aces High to Invaders, Moonchild, and Where Eagles Dare. It's not one of the strongest, but it's not bad. Holy Smoke, to me, it's a very cheesy track with one of the weakest lyrics and lackluster performances on the vocals. I'm not a fan of the track musically, that feels bland, but it contains some excellent soloing that we hear Yannick Gers is soloing for the first time with Dave Morris, of course, and some of the soloing on the later tracks were fantastic. The title track is very, very decent. It's an okay song. A few terrific guitar playings and drumming beats. It's a gentle type of track for the most part with some synths in the piece, but it's just not bad overall. The later material, like Fate's Warning, opens with some more of the layers of synthesizers and some lead guitar in like a Gary Moore kind of style, in my words. But the track itself after that feels like there's something missing, and that's one of the biggest problems that I have with this album. It's like that the songs try way too hard to come up with something big of material, but it just doesn't connect very, very well. And this one lacks with uninteresting performances as well, that it feels stale. Not a favourite, that doesn't bring anything stronger up. Another song that is very problematic for me is The Assassin. Uninteresting lyrics that don't progress into anything better. And to me, the chorus is just very lazy and underwhelming, feels loose at the same time. Same with the vocals that are repetitive and generic. The song that is passable is Public Enema Number 1. Some of the music is good in the heavier verses and the rhythmic bridge during the solos, but the chorus is okay. It's not as strong. Again, with some of the words that feel shallow and try too hard to be interesting. And that goes with another song called Run Silent, Run Deep, with passable instrumentation. One of the better listenable tracks on this record, like the title track. But we go to a song called Hooks in You. Hooks in You, to me, is complete garbage. I do not care for this track at all. It is the worst of the worst in the repertoire for Iron Maiden's material. Very bad in the lyricism again, and appalling performances, which makes it poor and bleak entirely. Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter, the most popular track released as a single. It's not as perfect as the other ones that were out previously. It still has lacking depth of instrumentation, uninspired lyrics, but it's better than the ones that were passed through previously. But the only track that I really did enjoy quite a lot, very controversially, is the last song, Mother Russia. And it's a very interesting one, quite experimental in a way, underrated, and not many Maiden fans would see this as a great song. And in my eyes, it's the best song on here. That sounds different to anything they've done. I enjoyed this one for the most part, and for what it is. Pretty good guitar riffs and good performances, but I think to close this album off can be just, unusual. I really did like Mother Russia than most of the songs on this album. So there you go. No Prayer for the Dying. I'm not a massive fan of this album at all. Bland and juvenile in one of the worst ways possible. Let me know what you think of this album in the comments below. I'm going to give No Prayer for the Dying by Iron Maiden a 4 out of 10. And I know that it's very below average, but it's far from being a piece of garbage album. There are tracks that I liked, very poor in comparison to the other albums that were out before this. It's not one of the worst albums of all time, so that's good, because there are albums that I would say that are worse than this, like really, really bad. But this is not one of them, so yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.